Hey, what's up? This is Kevin from Kevin's Barbecue Joints, and this one's awesome. It's with Jeremy Brand. You might know him as BBQ and Back Squats on Instagram. He's an incredible photographer, but moreover, he's an incredible guy. Super humble, super nice. A few years ago, I started to see him pop up at events, taking pictures, and then I saw him connect with Brady, who has Brisket Country, and I was wondering kind of what was going on. And then as I followed him even more, I started to see some amazing photos, and those photos we talk about, they were taken in Marfa during a specific trip. And I realized he has a fantastic eye. Then I started to catch on that he was connected to Mill Scale and Snake River Farms, and he did stuff with Nomad. I was just curious as to what this was all about, how he got this name, BBQ and Back Squats. And if I was curious, I figured that you guys would be curious too. And I'm so glad that I spoke with him. He has so much to talk about. And I think his journey will be inspiring for a lot of people because he has not been a photographer for a long time, yet he is involved with a lot of photography projects. I'm working with a lot of great companies. So essentially, if there's something that you're passionate about, you could stick to it, do your day job, do whatever, but stick to it, and these dreams can be realized. And I can't thank Jeremy enough for taking the time. I know by the end of this, you'll get to know him better. You'll also want to follow him and check out and see what he's doing. And then if you see him at any events or functions or wherever, or restaurants, you'll know a little bit more about him. If you want to learn more, I'm going to have a blog post about him at kevinsbbqjoints.com. I'm at Kevin's BBQ Joints on all the social media. If you're listening to this on the podcast side, jump to the YouTube side. You can see photos in the montage, a bunch of his photos. But at the end, stay safe and visit your local barbecue joint. In Georgetown, and I had just talked to Chet, and Georgetown's a pretty cool city, right?
Yeah, it's great. It's getting bigger, and a lot of people from Austin are moving up this way, which I kind of love and hate.
Yeah, of course, of
but
course.
uh, but it's a great city, and I mean, the more that starts happening, we start having more restaurants and things, and so it's
Yeah.
pretty great.
Did you grow up in Georgetown?
I didn't. I actually grew up in on the West Coast. I moved here 4.5 years, almost 5 years now, from the Portland, Oregon area.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's interesting because I'm itching to move to Oregon. So maybe you could tell me why did but Portland? I'm not. I was thinking about going a little more south, more like Eugene, Salem, somewhere kind of.
Yeah, I actually grew up when I was younger. I grew up in Southern Oregon, down in Medford area.
Oh yeah.
Gosh, I don't even remember what year. We've been here about 5 years, and it was about 9 or 10 years before that we were in the Portland area. But all before that, it was Southern Oregon. It's beautiful. It's really cold. It's really wet. When I got to Texas, I thought that I should have always been here. I love it here.
So that's your like your inclination is heat and sun, and that's your yeah. I
Yeah.
What made you move to Georgetown?
So prior to living here, my family had started kind of a coffee drive-through chain in the Northwest.
Oh,
And then I moved here to expand. We were expanding out this way. And that's how I ended up out here.
oh. What was it? What's the name of the coffee place?
It's Black Rock Coffee Bar. You have one in Oceanside and one in Vista.
Okay.
Uh, they're little drive-throughs there, but mostly in the Northwest. Quite a few here throughout Texas now, Arizona.
So was that like a family thing, like your parents too, or is
Yeah, my dad, my brother, and I, and then my brother's brother-in-laws and father-in-law and
oh,
stuff. We were all kind of a big family venture.
wow? Is it fun?
It was a lot of fun. I mean, it was incredibly fun. I actually, a couple of years back, I retired out of that, and so my brother's still heavily involved.
Gotcha.
But it was, I mean, it was really great. It's big now, and I love small business, and I love kind of growing smaller brands, and so it was good, but it was an adjustment as it grew.
And it was starting to get probably to that point where you knew.
Yeah, it's pretty big now. I'm not even sure how many stores. I'm sure it's well over 100, I think now.
That's
Um,
pretty amazing. Wow.
yeah, it's a great business, great coffee shop. Still go in there in the
Uh,
local in here.
well, if there's one like when in Oceanside, when I go down to Heritage, I can stop by.
Yeah,
And anybody listening to this, they can stop by if they want to support the family. and,
for sure, for sure.
and you know what's funny too is I feel so stupid. You've been saying this out loud, but when Starbucks first started appearing down here, and I kept thinking like I'm in Los Angeles, I'm like what is this? Like no one's gonna go. Obviously, I was wrong, but it just it didn't seem. And then the fact that you guys started after Starbucks, right?
Yeah, we started in '08
Mhm.
and opened up in Beaverton, just outside of Portland, and just grew from there.
Were you into photography then?
Not not really. I
That's
always kind
great.
of I had that creative outlet side, but I never picked up a real camera. And actually I didn't pick up a real camera until gosh, just a couple of years ago.
What was your creative outlet before?
I love taking photos, but it was this. It was that until finally I decided I need to get serious and start, do having higher quality and better photos. And
Yeah, that was the same thing for me. And I realized if I'm going around to these places, it doesn't make sense to like. I think I went to one place and I had a GoPro, and the girl had a nice Canon, and like the PR girl who was with me, and it was the GoPro had 4K, so it was nice. But she was like, "Really? Are you?" And then I started thinking, well, maybe I should at least dabble in. Now I'm like kind of addicted to buying gear and learning more about it. But I'm excited and I want to delve during this into photography with you because you have a great eye and there's some of my favorite photos are from you and hopefully I'll remember to know exactly where to talk about those places. But it's interesting for people now to watch this and say, hey, just a couple years ago you got into this or like heavily and look where you are right now and you're really taking great photography and you're becoming known for that, so that's kind of amazing, huh?
it's funny because I still look at myself as just it's like a creative outlet. It's a hobby, kind of is the way I look at it. And I don't think I'll ever feel like, oh, I've mastered this. And I think that's what I love about it though, is there's
Yeah,
always new stuff I'm trying to learn.
yeah. And if you once you start to, because I've been doing a lot of research, there are a lot doing amazing work across the world, like it's things that I'm blown away by, and
Yeah.
it's great to see their eye and see what they're interested in and how their take on it's everyone's take on the world, and it's a way to capture an instant. It's pretty amazing. So so then when did you get the handle barbecue and back squats?
So gosh. I think it was right around the time when COVID hit and the shutdowns were happening. I started just documenting more just cooks because I was at home. I
Yeah,
was also working out at home a lot and trying to counteract some of that food I was eating.
yeah, yeah.
So I was doing a lot of both fitness and eating. You don't see a whole lot of that on my Instagram or anything, the fitness side, although I do kind of post about the gym in my stories. But that's kind of where the name came from. And it just kind of, it's funny. I keep thinking, oh, I should switch it, but everybody knows me as that
it
now.
it's easy to remember now. Yeah, but it's also too like people probably don't know. Like I actually today I googled back squat to make sure I knew specifically what it's where you have the bar behind you, right? When you're
Yep. Yep. And then you squat down to like parallel and then stand it back up.
yeah, yeah, that's cool. And here's a little a stupid thing that I learned on TikTok yesterday. Did you know that not every 45 pound uh was it every weight or what not weight what oh every not every 45 pound weighs the same, like if you go to a gym they could be off like 2 or 3 pounds.
Yeah, yeah. They're unless you get into the not to delve too far into the weight side, but
Yeah,
unless they're like the like US weightlifting or world weightlifting approved, a lot of times they're off, yeah, by a little bit, especially like the rubber plates that most people have.
plates, that's what they're called. Yeah, plates. Okay,
So yeah,
the rubber ones are that would be consistent then, I would imagine, right?
I would say that they're actually, I mean, they're close, but the fancy ones are actually kind of I don't even know what it is. It's like a hard, almost seems like a hard case, kind of around a plastic case around it. And
Okay, yeah, because they suppose because the guy said that he didn't realize it until he saw guys around a gym, it was a really good gym, going around and grabbing the ones that they preferred because they knew that it would be balanced. I just didn't. I guess I don't know why I didn't think of that.
yeah,
Yeah, but you have a gym at your house. Do you also go somewhere else, or?
I do. A good friend of mine, also from Oregon, who moved out here, has a gym, and so it's great. He got my old coach back here, and I love it. It's great having the ability to do it at home, but it's really great going and doing group classes. And
Yeah. Why is that important? Is it important for motivation too, because it kind of keeps you accountable, or?
Yeah, I mean, I need to do something. I'm getting old, and
So am
it's kind of a use it or lose it thing. And I want
I.
to keep, keep strength as much as possible. And like I said, I do like to eat a lot, so
Yeah.
it helps to kind of counterbalance that.
When you were in Oregon, were you interested in barbecue at all?
It was more, yes, but it was more, I personally did more just grilling up there. There was a local little chain up there called Buster's, and what I thought was real good barbecue at the
Of
time.
course.
First trip to Texas, and I went back and I was like, this is garbage. I mean, it was great. It's all we had at the time, but now they've actually got quite a bit up there.
Oh yeah.
Grassland barbecue out in Hood
Yeah,
River.
I've been working with them to talk to them. Yeah.
I mean, and then Matt's barbecue up there
Oh yeah.
in Portland. Matt's is incredible. So those things weren't there before. So I grilled pretty much, and then here just kind of deep dived and started really getting into it and started smoking meats as well as grilling. And
How did this progression happen with the brands and stuff? Because so did you pull yourself like during COVID, did you pull yourself away from the company with your family and then want to go into marketing or something? Or
it
how did
was
it play out?
so long story, but I had the opportunity to like retire out of the coffee business.
Oh, gotcha.
So then we were, at home pretty much locked up doing nothing. And I just started cooking a bunch and just posting about it. And that became my focus. And then it's kind of funny, this progression, how it happened. So,
Yeah.
the Nomad Grills, the suitcase grills,
Yeah, they're on my list of asking you about them. Yes.
I got one of those and started using it, and then got to know them pretty well. And they started using a bunch of my photos. And it was just a real, casual relationship. They're still great friends. They're really great people.
Yeah.
But started doing that. And then through that process, Snake River had seen what I was doing and stuff.
Uh,
And Snake River reached out, and they've been incredible. I
what
mean,
a great company.
yeah, I was gonna say, as far as I'm concerned, it's the best meat out there, but I just love it, and they've been a great partnership for me. So then that kind of fell into that. Gosh, I'm trying to think. So then after that, just kind of as things progressed over the next year or so, Millscale was in between photographers at the time, and I told Matt, hey, I'll jump in, and if you need anything, I hadn't done anything that I would call like professional or anything at that
Yeah.
point. So I did a couple things for them, and they're great guys. I've known them for quite a while.
Yeah. Like salt of the earth guys, just the
For
best.
sure.
Yeah.
So Matt was just, he's like, this just fits and just works. Do you want to just pretty much do the bulk of our stuff? And so it's almost been, gosh, a year now that I've been shooting for them.
That's crazy. That's really neat. It's like you followed your passion and you were just showing what you're doing and it parlayed into things like it wasn't like, I think that sometimes people in their heads think they need to be heavy handed with stuff and push things. And I think that the organic way out, I know in my mind, just seems to work better.
I totally agree. I'm very much that I always say, like, I'm busy enough. I don't need to do anything else. And I just kind of, I'm happy in the background kind of, and then inevitably something comes up and another company will reach out or something. There's a Texas clothing. It's a men's clothing brand called Texas Standard.
Mm-hmm.
Recently they reached out and were like, hey, you want to try shooting some stuff for us? And we've hit it off. So I'm doing stuff for them now.
Oh, cool.
But that's another example though, of like just what you were saying. I just was not trying to force anything, really trying to just hide back. It's just, people just notice. And if I can do something like that, I'm convinced anybody can.
Yeah. And also too, it's I bet you get a lot of requests from all these different companies because if I get them, I'm sure I'm not out there shooting photos. You probably get from everybody. And I could name names that I've seen other people like I'm like, oh, they've contacted me 10 times and now you're repping
Yeah,
them, which is fine. Like everyone's got their thing, but you have to also probably say no, be able to say no and pick and choose properly and in the nicest way.
for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, well, so let's talk. I want to talk specifically about each company because I think that would be nice for people. If people don't know about Millscale, what should they know about Millscale?
Gosh, I mean, even I have the same opinion now that I had prior to working with them. I had a couple of their pieces before. I had their fire table and one of their 94-gallon smokers before I started
Wow.
shooting for them. The quality, that's the thing for me, hands down. It's like a piece that's going to outlive you for sure on everything they make. And there's a lot of great pit builders out there. I mean, tons of great pit
Mhm.
builders, but I just really love the aesthetic of theirs. It's a little overbuilt. It's a little industrial, but it's still got a slight polished edge to it without getting too. It's definitely not fancy,
Mhm.
in that way. And I don't know. They're just super good guys too. That's just I can't say enough about them.
So you have the fire table. Which fire table is that? Do they have a couple
uh,
different ones or?
It's like I don't know if you've seen the one at Heritage, that big old long
Oh yeah.
table. It's like that, but it's a smaller version of that, the home version, pretty much.
Okay. And then you have the
Uh,
94, which is their backyard version, right?
yeah, and I love that, and it's great. It suits what I do because I don't do a whole lot of big cooks or anything with the smoker. Although I've had an opportunity to cook on their 500s and 1,000, and it's wild. They're like Cadillacs. The 94 is great and runs smooth, but those big ones are just I feel like they just run on autopilot. They're just
Uh,
easy to run.
so that is why they're one of the top choices for people.
For sure, for
Yeah.
sure.
Do you know offhand what their lead time is for the big guys, like the 500s and 1,000,
I
roughly?
don't. They post on occasion.
Yeah,
They'll
yeah, I know. I write them sometimes, so I could ask them. But
And I would say, I think I think it's better than it used to be. I think they were pretty backed up for a while, but I think they've gotten where they can pump out pretty quick now on them.
yeah, and if people are following you, I'll put all your information below. You post stuff about the 94 too, because that they're starting to kind of they that's like a product not a production line, but that's something that they do in batches.
Yeah, yep, for sure. All their a lot more of their like backyard cooker stuff they tend to do in, yeah, like batches to just get them out there, and that way it kind of clears the shop out and stuff. So
Yeah. And you can get like a slot for a certain month. They'll say this is a month that these will be available.
yep, yep,
And I think from what I remember when I was talking to them, you could either have it shipped, which would be money, or you can come pick it up, right? I think,
yep.
yeah. But you have to have the ability. Like if you're across the country, it's not going to work. And then the fire tools, I found that a number of different companies that make pit builders that make fire tools sell out quickly. Mill scales sell out within like microseconds, it seems.
Yeah, for sure. They're the tools they have that they work with Daniel at Iron Grove are incredible pieces, and I've gotten to spend some time in his shop with them, and
Yeah, I
they're
was
all
going to talk about that. That's a connection. What is that connection? There's
uh, so I don't remember how they initially got hooked up with him. I just know that
yeah,
that's who does it for him, and he's just a great guy. He's out there, and I think it's technically Dripping Springs, so it's just a little bit away from where they're located in Lockhart, but it's incredible, that whole process. I've like forged my own knife with him, did a one-on
oh,
class and stuff, and
I'm so jealous. That is knife forging and forging in general, and I love glass blowing too. But that forging anything, I love that craft. I love it so much. I'm fascinated by it. I guess maybe fire too is what, and then taking something that looks absolutely nothing like what you're creating. It's awesome.
yeah, it's that creative.
Yeah, yeah. And Iron Grove makes knives too, right?
Yeah, so they make knives, they make those fire tools like the shovels, the pans, they make kebab like
Oh yeah.
skewers. Their knife line is pretty incredible. Like all they do. They do the gauchos for mill scale and stuff, but he also does batch releases of just his own personal stuff.
Oh,
And it's incredible what he does.
that's really cool. Okay, I'll put I'm gonna put a link to everything that we've talked to because, and it's gonna sound like we're not. This isn't an advertisement for people. It's just celebrating people that are great at what they do, and if you have intimate connections with a lot of these people, so that's why I want in your story, I want to talk about those things. But with mill scale, have you so you've gotten a chance to spend a lot of time with them. They do events too, right?
They do, yeah. They do some like live fire events, or they will have their equipment out at various events for people to use. Not to divert too much, but I don't know if you know the Tate Farms up in Rockwall,
I've
Evan and
heard of
Melissa.
it.
So they cook out at Willie's place. So we were just out there cooking at Willie's place on mill scale equipment because they
Uh,
bring it out to use. So that's, yeah, they definitely do a little bit of everything there.
yeah, people should pay attention to follow them too because they'll post their events a couple months in advance or at least a month in advance.
Yeah.
But and then also because we had talked about backtrack a little bit, can you talk a little bit more about Snake River Farms? Because I think people have seen their name and they've heard about them, but they might not know a lot. And I think you can order, I think they ship too, right?
Yep. Yeah, they
Yeah.
do. Actually, my dad orders a bunch from them now too.
He's smart.
um, So they're like the original like American Wagyu company. They back, gosh, I don't even remember when it was, maybe the 70s or 80s. The family brought in the Wagyu cows and started just really kind of refining that. They're really incredible what they do on the genetic side. Just to really create the most marbled, delicious meat. They're just awesome. They're a very cool company. They seem a lot bigger. I mean, they're big, but they seem a lot bigger than they are. When you really get in the inner workings, they really are just this tight knit, pretty like smaller, mid-sized company that's really incredible.
Yeah, they definitely seem like a bigger company. And it's out, they have great branding. They've done a great job with everything that they've done. What are your favorite cuts from them?
My most favorite is the Zabuton or the Denver. It's just a steak about like yay big, but it's this, I don't know how to explain it. It's got the perfect marbling and the way that it's cut and everything. If you if you fry it, which is gonna sound weird, but if you take it in a pan of like tallow and just fry it up in there, it gets a nice crispy crust on the outside and you get that medium rare on the inside. It's the best bite in my opinion.
Wow. And I think Denver is almost like an old time cut, like it's an old fashioned butcher cut, right?
Yeah, I believe so because it's not a real popular one and people don't really like talk about it much, but I mean once you've had it, it's incredible.
Wow. Okay. Well, that's a good to know. Everybody's like, all of a sudden, it's sold out. Let's hope I have that. But also, are those pecana? Are you getting those from?
I am, and they don't always have them, but when they do, I mean that's another. I mean, I'm sure you've had pecana, but when you have the Snake River ones because it's a Wagyu and it's got just that beautiful fat on it, that fat cap just renders down so
Uh,
nice.
with salt on it? Yeah, just
Yeah,
that.
pretty much that's all it needs. You really don't need. I mean, I'll put different things on various cuts of theirs, but when it comes to something like that, it's yeah, usually just salt.
Yeah, meat loves salt. It does. It really. I don't. I think, and it's hard because I've been taking care of my mom, and she's on a salt restricted diet. So but I've realized that like when I've been cooking with meats and stuff, it's not the same as like salting a dish, because it kind of burns off a little bit or kind of
Right,
caramelizes.
right.
It's not the same. But so I'm able to kind of play with it a little more without it causing issues with it. But it is funny. It's funny too. Like when shopping for this is such a stupid aside. I don't know if I'll keep it, but shopping for salt-free items in the market is just the hardest thing.
I'll bet.
It's wild. It's amazing how many things like for everything has salt. But it makes sense. Salt's delicious. Are there events that and are they in Texas?
They're in Boise,
Boise.
actually.
Okay.
And they once a year, all of us who I mean, I hate the term, but the like influencer ambassador crew with them, we all
Ambassador was better. I like Ambassador, kind of better, but it's still
we all
silly.
I feel like once again, just kind of I don't feel like I'm not an influencer. I'm just a
Yeah,
guy doing what I do.
yeah,
But
yeah. It's a weird term. And it's become even worse. But yeah, I
yeah,
get to connect. People connected that in your way. Yeah.
for sure. But yeah, so they'll have us all out about once a year, and we do this thing called Fall Feast. It's incredible. Last year, some of us cooked a little, but usually, they just do all the cooking and just kind of have
Oh,
us have a good time. It's great because they sent out like the Nomad guys were out there with us at Luck too, and they had sent them some like tomahawks and stuff. So we got to cook out there at Willie's with Snake,
oh,
which was such a good full circle for me. I'm like, cooking on Nomads and Mill Scale, and we're cooking Snake River. It was,
wow, that's really cool. Was Willie there?
yeah, he's there. I mean, he's pretty, I mean, he's almost 90, so he doesn't come out and interact a lot, but he goes up and performs. It's pretty incredible. In the last year, just doing events out there. I think I've seen him like 4 or 5 times, and
Oh, that's
it's
cool.
pretty special. Yeah.
Yeah, he's a special human. And it's like he's like there's certain national treasures that are still alive, like a person like Tootsie. But
Yeah,
it's and like even Dolly Parton. It's just like there's certain people you're like, wow. It's like when they go, God forbid, like it's. I'm glad that we've lived amongst in a time when they lived too.
for
So
sure. For sure.
they've shared a lot. And then with the I wanted to ask you with the Nomad, are you still connected to Nomad? Or is that something you want to talk about, or is it
Yeah, yeah.
okay?
I don't. It's funny. I don't do a lot. I'm pretty busy with mail scale all the time, but I do still cook on it, and then it just inevitably I still end up going to events where I'm cooking on nomads with the Nomad crew. Now
And
they're
what is it? And what is it about? Like it's explain it because it looks like a suitcase.
So it
Like
looks like, yeah, it looks like a suitcase that like maybe James Bond would carry.
yeah.
It looks like it could handle a bomb explosion, but it's inside. It's got like a clamshell that holds everything in there, so you can cook with it, and it keeps most of the heat. I mean, it gets warm, but it keeps most of the heat off of the surfaces around where you're cooking. And then when you're done, you can close it up and seal the latches, and it holds all the ash and everything inside. So as soon as it's cooled down,
Wow.
you can throw it in your trunk, throw it in your closet.
Do you use charcoal for that, or do they people? Okay,
Yeah, it's charcoal works great in it. You also can use wood. I've used wood in there before. I'll do charcoal with some wood chips in it.
and it seems like they're growing and growing. And how did your connection with Brady? And he doesn't go by M. Brady Clark. So he goes by Brady, right?
He goes by Brady. Yeah. So
I even
Brady
interviewed him. I don't think I ever said M once. Okay.
it's kind of a crazy story. So just the magic of Instagram and social media is
Yeah.
before I moved here, I was just looking at different hashtags for Georgetown and stuff to see like, is this where I want to live? And somehow I came across his profile, and I was like, oh wow, this guy's a really amazing graphic artist. And so
Yeah.
I got a hold of him and was like, hey, or I started following him, I think is what happened. And then he started following me. And then he reached out and was like, you're moving out here. And I'm like, yeah. He said, well, let's get together when you come out. So within, I think, a week of being here, we were already meeting up at the local pizza place. And it was pretty wild because he's the person I've known the longest here in Texas, and
Ah.
just such a good guy, so well connected. I actually jumped in for, gosh, I think it was like 6 or 7 months, and kind of was part of Brisket Country with him. And then it got to be, I had just retired of the coffee thing prior,
Yeah.
jumped into Brisket Country, and I was just kind of overwhelmed with the amount of work because he's popular, and he's
Yeah. Definitely.
on. So I actually kind of stepped back from being an official part of that, but I'm still his sidekick on when he cooks and when he needs some photos or anything. So I'm still tied in with him.
Okay. Can you explain kind of what Brady does for people that might
Yeah.
not know?
It's his company's Brisket Country. It's a marketing. I mean, it goes beyond barbecue, but the bulk of it centers around the barbecue and grilling, the food like sauces. He does he just recently revamped Tuffy Stone's
Yeah.
labels for his rubs and whatnot. He does.
Brotherton's, he did all the burn ends sauces, right? For John Brotherton. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Is it incredible that kind of it wasn't a full rebrand. They just kind of tweaked what he had prior, but Brady's just so good at that. He just really made it like he just elevated it that much. So he does kind of just like that. I'm trying to think he does
I just talked to Dustin at Mule Skinner. I want to say it right. Mule Skinner Smoke Rigs, and he did all
yeah,
of his branding, and it looks just badass. That's great.
yeah. Mule Skinner, he does gosh, he's done stuff for Snows, he does interstellar stuff,
Koi and Koi, right?
Koi. He does a bunch. I don't know if everybody knows, but he does like hardcore carnivore, Jess Pryle stuff. He does like all that stuff.
I think he's had some stuff on his site that shows that he did that. I think so. And then he does heritage stuff, all heritage.
Yeah, and the heritage stuff's great because I think it's gone slightly. I mean, in my opinion, it's slightly different than a lot of the stuff that he does out here, or he's
Mhm.
done for rub stuff. So I love his stuff he did for
Yeah.
him.
And if someone sees the oceans, maybe I'll try to picture when we're talking about it. But the Oceanside building, He did the entire, because when I was talking to Danny, he's like, "Yeah, Brady's going to do the entire, he like the paint scheme and everything." Like,
Yeah, he's
that's
so
yeah,
good at that.
yeah, definitely. I'll put a link to Brisket Country and all that below because that's definitely killer. That's amazing. So then, so when you were doing working with him, were you working more on the photography side or just everything?
Yeah, it was more on the photography side, and it was basically just with clients of his doing, photo stuff, but it was starting to get into large scale, like we want to revamp our website and we want all of our products reshot and stuff, and it was just
A lot.
it was a lot.
That's
And like
definitely a
I say,
lot.
I still think of myself as a hobbyist that does it for a creative outlet, so it was kind of a little overwhelming.
Yeah. So let's talk about photography then. What camera did you choose to go into and why?
So I chose a Sony A7 III, and it was purely, well, for a couple things. I just started, anytime someone had a camera, I would ask to look through it, and it was really a feel of what my eye felt looking through.
Oh,
So I was like, I looked through Nikons, and I mean, Nikons are great. Look through Canon, they're great. But every Sony I ever looked through, there was just something about the way that it looked. It was just this, it was what I
interesting.
felt like I wanted. So then I started researching the Sonys, and the A7 III seemed like it was big enough, a good enough jump to get into like a professional camera without going way deep into, costing a whole bunch.
Yeah.
There's times I think I want to upgrade, but at the same time, that A7 III's, it's just a workhorse.
So you've stayed with that A7 III the whole time.
I have, yeah, and I love it, and I pretty much, I mean, got a couple different lenses, but I almost primarily use it's a Tamron, basically a knockoff of the G Master. It's just, it does what I need it to do, because mostly I think I take portraits is the way I think of it. I take portraits of food, portraits of people, and portraits of steel, machines.
Yeah. So what is that a 20, what is it, a 2070? What is it, a
It's what is it? It's like a 2870 or something
okay.
like that. I can't remember the exact specs on it.
Okay.
But it doesn't, I mean, there's times where I could use maybe a little more zoom, but most of the time I have more like that journalistic approach. So I like to really get in there. Like I like to get like right behind people sometimes and stuff to get the shot. I don't like sitting way back and just, zooming
Mhm.
in. So it
How did you get that? Because I follow around. I don't know if you know John Troxel.
yeah, he's
Yeah, well,
great.
so amazing. And I met him in early days at a pop up at Moose, and he was doing some photography, and then he kind of not took me under his wing, but let me, whenever I'd be with him at something, follow him around and watch him work, and he'd give me advice and tell me little things. But he was taking a picture of this guy doing, and he got like jumped in, and it was almost like, because I didn't have the guts to do it, but it was almost like you have a camera and you're a photographer, at least in your mind, and so if you do it, they'll like people, and they want to get good photos of their product, but it's just what was that moment where it switched where you felt comfortable getting so close in?
I think, I mean,
Or were
I
you always like
still,
that?
I'm still not always comfortable. Like if I don't know, or people don't know who I am or anything, I always feel weird. I don't know. I think it was just from shooting food, because especially shooting food on my phone, because when I would cook, you're only using a phone, you got to get right down in the
Mhm.
fire almost, right? Because I'm doing a lot of like meat cooking shots and
Yeah.
stuff. So I think it was that, and then it just kind of translated that. And I think as I got more comfortable just being, who's that guy? Some guys here, but having a camera, I think, is like you were saying, when you have a camera, it kind of gives you a little bit of license
Yeah.
to just get in there. And I think
And
that was,
if it looks a little bit more professional than just like a point and shoot camera, they think you must either.
yeah.
I think you could pull it off better. No, it's just an interesting thing because I just didn't want to invade people's space, but you have to get really good shots. Sometimes you gotta have to, and you have to get behind the scenes. Yes.
And I think, yeah, I think that's the way too. My style is that when I'm trying to shoot, I try to make you feel like you're there. I'm not going so much for like an edit that's just a style or whatever. I really love taking photos that just really puts you in the action. So I think that's why I've always kind of been a little bit like that.
And you also too, it seems like, and I might be wrong, but it seems like you have a fondness for shadows.
I,
And
I'm always playing. I love light and shadows, and I do love stuff. I don't want things to look fake, but I but I want a little saturation pop. And in that, I love when like blacks look really black a lot of times.
mhm,
So yeah, I tend to lean a little bit on that side. And like I say, playing with light is so much fun.
yeah,
So yeah.
it's infinite. Yeah, it's and I think and that kind of leads to me to what I had mentioned earlier. It was a trip, I think that was it a trip to Marfa or something that you did? Like it was a couple years ago or a year?
Yeah, Brady and I went out there. It was, I believe it was an anniversary, one of the anniversaries of Convenience West.
Okay.
And so we went out and cooked with Mark and Khaki and the crew out there. And then Dave Bonner from Green Street Meats met us out there, and Don from Koi was out there as
Yeah.
well.
But there's some photos. I'll try to find them, but there was like one of a woman.
It was
Yeah.
Khaki. Yeah, she was right. I know which one you're talking about because that was actually a. So you know how, I mean, you'll know this. You have breakthrough moments in your photography where you just something just clicks and the conditions are right, and you change your style a little bit because just something the light goes on. That was one of those moments. She was standing there probably about 5 feet from the window in the front of the shop, and so the light was coming down just right, and she was just filling, I think, barbecue sauce cups or something.
Yeah.
It was just this, like, yeah, the conditions were just perfect, and so that whole trip actually changed a lot of how I shoot.
Wow. That's interesting. And that's probably good for a lot of young photographers or new photographers is, you just have to keep trying and keep exploring. And that's like when I've interviewed photographers, I've asked, how do you find your voice? Some of them feel like they have, and I feel like I haven't, but I think maybe like it's interesting. That was a pivotal moment. And I remember seeing it and I thought, this guy is good. Like this is good. Like he captured something special there. That was really special.
I had the same feeling. I was like, how did I do that? It's what I it's like
Yeah.
that's an incredible shot.
Yeah.
I think
Can I replicate it?
that may have been the first time I looked at something I did and was like, wow, like
Hmm.
I really loved that.
Yeah, because a lot of times you probably like this part looks amazing, but this is like it's tough to it's interesting. And do you take them in take them in Lightroom, but you probably have your it's interesting to look. I'm sure you now know like you'll see like Lerma has his style, like you could tell their edit style too. It's interesting.
Yeah, yeah. And it's funny, I love Lightroom, and I used to try to use it as little as possible, and I still try to capture the shot how I want it with
Yeah.
as minimal of editing as necessary. But because Lightroom's so amazing and you can really bring those shadows up and stuff, I've started using it a lot heavier, and I've actually, where I used to hate editing, I actually really enjoy it now.
That's great. No, I'm starting to kind of learn it, and I'm gonna maybe take an online class just a little learn everything about it because there's so many different things. But it was so funny. I went out one day and I took all these pictures at noon, and it's like noon's the kind of the dumbest day to dumbest time of day to take photos because everything's kind of washed out. And so I thought I had all these photos. And I'm like, and I went into my room and I did exposure and I moved the exposure. And I'm like, oh wait, there's like that's just so weird. It was like they turned into okay photo. It's
Yeah,
like,
it's wild.
yeah, it is weird. Well, that's and that. So then, are there places, barbecue places that are really special to you, and then are there barbecue places that you want to visit or you're looking forward to visit?
Yes.
I'm sure there's a lot, but like we can
Gosh,
think
yeah,
like a
there's
handful.
a lot. I was gonna say, I know it's cliche, but Snows is always great, and we're lucky enough to live, gosh, 45 minutes to an hour away, so we go there fairly often. But it's just special. That experience is just special. It's funny because a lot of it's relational. Do you know what I mean? Like the food is amazing at these places and stuff. But I was like, Interstellar is one of my favorites. But John and Leslie are actually really good friends too, and that
Yeah.
has a lot to do. I love chef driven barbecue myself. So just thinking once again, friends, but koi is, if you've ever had koi, like it's unlike anything else that I've had, and I love it. The flavor combos are just so good with the curry and the pho, and
And he's thinking,
for
if you could
being
tell, he's thinking about things on a different level.
For sure. And I think that's for me, I love, yeah, just when something is clearly like a chef driven menu, it really is like what does it for me. Like classic barbecue is great and it works for a lot of people, but I've had so much of it.
Yeah.
I want something that feels like you'd eat at a nice restaurant or a fancy restaurant kind of, and that's where I lean a lot.
Yeah. Are there places outside of California, I mean, outside of Texas that you haven't been to that you're itching to go
I
to?
I mentioned earlier grasslands up in Hood River. I really want to go check them out because what they're doing, I think, is something really special because it feels so much like a Texas thing, but it definitely has that Northwest flair. So
Mhm.
I really want to visit there. Heritage is always just, I mean, I know it's right there for you, but like for people who haven't been, it's incredible too because it's clearly chef driven, but he draws from so many, I think, just ethnic food types and stuff. And I think because he's got a deep staff of different ethnicities and stuff who are all like really well trained, so it's
And he lets them run with it. It just, yeah.
yeah,
When I interviewed Lennon, talking about just like his background alone was crazy. And then the stuff talking about, well, if we have leftover this, then this chef will do this and this. And I'm like, no one else is doing it.
yeah. And then the other, and it's another relationship thing. I know he does great stuff, but I've never been is Tyler Hart. I know he's got his brick and mortar now, and I
Yeah,
really want to make it up there and see him.
definitely. Yeah. For a million reasons. I think,
Yeah, oh yeah,
yeah, Jesus, he's someone that I love. I picked him up at the airport to take him to Moose, I think, a while back before the pandemic. And it was just so fun. Like, it was just like I had been friends with him for 100 years. It was, yeah, he's a good
yeah.
dude.
He's that guy that just randomly, I'll just wake up and be drinking coffee one day, and I'll get a text from him that just thinking about you. Hope you're doing good. And I'm like, that's just for me. That's like I say, relationships. That just does
Mhm.
it. I'm like, I got to get up there.
Yeah, definitely. And I want to support, like, there's certain people like that. Like, I want to support everything you do, and I want you to be successful in your own right because I know, and he's a family guy. He loves his parents, and it's like just yeah, it's very special. Yeah,
And
that's
then
definitely.
I don't know, you probably know like he comes from like a family of artists too, which really intrigues me because I'm if you can't tell, I'm heavy on the creative thing. I just
Yeah,
love in any aspect of your life, whatever your medium is, I love people just being creative.
yeah. Do you have a favorite artist right now, or are there some artists that you follow online that you could share? I would love that.
My favorite right now is she's wonderful. I got to actually meet her out once again at Willie's. She was out there. Laura Goodson. If you haven't discovered her, she's incredible.
Her art's at Fegis, right? At Fegis Spring
Yeah,
Branch.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's right. It's all over Fegis. So I really like her stuff right now.
Yeah.
John's stuff is always incredible. I love pop. I'm a big like pop art kind of fan. And so what I'm really digging to is when people like do the cowboy art, but in a pop art
Mhm.
style, that really does it for
Yeah.
me. Kevin Chupik,
Check it.
Chupik.
Okay.
He has this really interesting, it's cowboy art, but it's very like mid-century inspired.
Oh,
And I'm a huge fan of mid-century
yeah.
architecture, just everything about mid-century stuff. And he somehow marries the two incredibly. So that's kind of currently those are
That's
some,
go a dream of mine would be to go shoot his studio because I think that would just be like, uh,
it's so funny. That's where my mind always goes with these people too. And that's where I get a little sheepish because I'm like, I'm just a guy with a camera, but I would love to, all of those artists I just mentioned, I'd love to just go and like put my eye on
yeah,
their, just their studio.
for sure. Like I'd love to travel the country and go to like welders and woodworkers and makers, like knife makers and all these people and just shoot and spend time with them and learn. That would be ideal. If you could do that and make a living off of that, that would just be so
Yeah.
cool. It's really cool. That's awesome. So I wanted to ask about Georgetown. Is there somewhere you could recommend for people if they're coming to visit Georgetown? What are some places they should go to for sure?
Well, the Golden Rule, which Brady is involved in,
Yeah.
great food, great bar. They keep getting named like one of the best bourbon bars out there and stuff. It's great. Then also coming soon, do you know the Rosslers?
Yeah.
Rosslers are going to be popping up, I think, a couple days a week down here, down near the square in Georgetown.
Ah, good
I'm
for them.
super excited because they're, once
Uh,
again, just incredible people.
yeah, well,
Uh,
someone today texted me and said, "Have you ever talked to Steven?" I said, "Yeah, I did like 4 years ago." I haven't talked to him recently because I would love to catch up. Yeah, such good. Kristen, they're such nice
yeah,
people.
they're so great. So I'm
Oh, that's
super
cool.
excited because they're going to be, we've been at a drought for barbecue in Georgetown for quite some time. And so now having them down at least a couple days a week is going to be so good.
Oh, that's cool. That's good for people to look forward to. Georgetown, where they're that cafe, like a famous classic cafe, like an old timey place to get pies and stuff. Is that in Georgetown, or am I thinking somewhere else?
There's a
Or was
place,
there a place?
Monument Cafe.
Yeah, is
It
that a famous place?
I'm not sure if it's famous, but it's iconic. It's kind of a
Yeah,
deco building, and inside it's very old time dinerish.
yeah.
It might be what you're
I think
thinking of.
that's what I'm thinking, and I think I might have seen something with Matthew McConaughey there for something like a
That
cook or
would not
something.
surprise me, actually. I think his mother lived at Sun City for a while, which is the big retirement community here. So I'll bet you, yeah, I bet you it was him.
Yeah, yeah, probably. Cool. Well, then, and then what's your favorite thing to cook right now, other than the Denver steak? Like, what's some? Let's just like kind of wrap it up with like what have you been cooking lately? How do you feel confident enough to like you and Brady to cook? Because like that's not your background, but you're like cooking it at all these events. I'm like, how
It's
the hell are they doing that?
we take it pretty easy. A lot of times we default to, I mean, we get creative with stuff, but a lot of times we default to say smash burgers because
Yeah. Okay.
Brady's a master at smash burgers, so we do those quite a bit. We've done some different like skewers and stuff. I'm most comfortable like at events like that, just jumping in with somebody and just cooking. Like tomorrow, I'm actually helping John at Interstellar. He's doing it's burgers actually. Austin Monthly has their like best burger list, and he made the list, and so we're cooking those
Oh,
tomorrow. I'm
cool.
helping them out. But when I'm at home, gosh, it's a little bit of everything.
Oh, well, how was that with Palmyra?
That was incredible. And once again, because it was real out of the box. So you've got John, who's chef driven, barbecue. Then you've got Hector, who is from what is it, South Carolina, I believe.
Mhm.
It's totally different than what Texas barbecue is. And it was incredible because of that. It was for me, I love like he's got this hog head hash that he makes.
Ah,
And it was this I don't know how to explain it. It's like sweet and savory, and it's almost like a gravy on. It's
ah.
incredible.
And
So yeah,
he's pulling from his roots from not Cuba. I think it's from Puerto Rico or
yes,
Cuba or something. Yeah.
I think it's Puerto Rico, if I'm not
Yeah.
mistaken. And it's yeah, everything. Once again, he's the level of that's another
Yeah.
one I need to go visit. He's
Yeah,
working
it is. Yeah.
order.
Yeah, yeah,
So
and I've been working back and forth trying to talk to him too. It's like grasslands, like all these people that you're talking to, I've been like kind of haven't, but I've had to cancel a bunch of them because of my mom's stuff. But there is like this is so, yeah, it's such a fun world, and it's fun that the barbecue world itself is still expanding and changing and evolving. It's amazing.
for sure. I think, and that's what I think it's exciting to me is the fact that it is evolving and changing because it's barbecue's so much more than just the basic trinity of meats.
Hmm.
Like what you can do with those meats is like infinite,
Yeah,
and I love that it's being pushed that way in a lot of people's menus.
definitely. Oh, here was the last question. Is there a favorite sausage that you had recently from somebody?
You know, pretty much anything that Bill Dumas makes.
Yeah.
It's like some of them are really crazy and out of the box, but he's just incredible. I think he made this jerk chicken one that once again very different, but I
Yeah.
think that's why I liked it because you're so used to being like heavily on the like pork sausage and
Yeah.
stuff, and then he throws a jerk chicken in the mix, and it's completely different than anything. So
Wow, that's killer. Yeah, I would love to I'd love to spend a week with Bill. He's just such a interesting character, but his mind for sausage, it's like it's funny how with this barbecue world, people eventually it seems like they find their place. Like a lot of people like that became that's his true passion, and that's something that's it's taking him all over the world. It's just wild.
For sure.
Yeah, so thank you so much for taking the time. This was great getting to know you, and also it's selfish of me because I wanted to get to know you. So
Thank
thank you
you.
for taking an
Great getting
hour
to
of
know
your
you
time.
too. And it wasn't nearly as awkward as I was thinking I'd be, but I do. I get in front of a camera and I'm just what do I do with my hands kind of thing.
Yeah, and then people have said like because I've been like I'm definitely not the best at doing this, and I'm also just not. This wasn't my thing before, but once I started doing them, I just figured I wanted to do them just because I thought there's something to do while I was helping my mom, and then after a while, like I interviewed, it was like I think I met like Nolan from B4 Barbecue and Boba, and he's like, I don't want to do it, I don't like doing it. I did something with Matt Pittman, and I was like nervous, and so after we did it, he's like, oh, Kevin, that was great. That was so easy. Like I didn't. So I try to make it conversational. That's because I hope that people like that. I don't know. Who knows?
It makes it great for me because I think it felt a lot more comfortable than being actually interviewed.
Exactly. And also too, people a lot of times people make them live or they don't edit them, and they're just lazy. They just want to pop it online, and so it's. I feel like if I edit it, then like because I'll have a lot of likes or ums or whatever, and or you'll have pregnant pauses and stuff, and I want to make it kind of I want you to set like the whole goal. I don't care how I look. I want people to see you and like you. And so it also too, I'll be able to, like I said, I'm starting to cut some of these down, and some of them are doing, like it's funny. Like I put that Tootsie one on, and I was like 20,000, almost 20,000 views. I'm like, who the heck? But like just for my 1 minute weird thing but it was funny. It was about her retiring, and she was like I feel honored that she talked to me twice. I just like that's in my soul. I feel good that she.
Yeah, no, that's good. It's funny. I've seen her kind of in the last few years come out a little bit more into the public a little bit because she's funny. Like you go out there and sometimes she's just sitting back and not really, coming out. But
Yeah.
now, last time I was out there, she wasn't there because she was at some event representing Snows at this event, and I was like,
Holy
wow,
smokes.
like she's definitely like
That's a
she's
step.
doing the PR circuit.
Yeah, that's crazy. No, and then when I talked to Carrie about, he's like, sometimes he's like, you just stay away from Tootsie. She's in a bad mood, and you just stay away. It was awesome. And I said too, like when I talked to Carrie, he's like, oh yeah, I had a stroke, and I had all this. Like, we're like, holy shit. It's just so this it's been a really weird this whole journey of doing these interviews and I have like so much interesting B-roll that I'll never use. But all right, have a good one. Thank you for taking the time. Have a good weekend.
Excellent, you too. Thank
Take
you.
care. Bye.